What's up, YouTube? How's everybody doing? Welcome to another weekly lawn and garden show. Man, I was kind of tuning in to see what was going on in the chat before the show started. Looking like there's a fair amount going on this morning, if you know what I'm saying. It's a bow. Zapow! We got bombs going off, everybody. Wow, it is a few days before the GIE. Just kind of curious, everybody in the chat, who's going to the GIE? I am. For those of you that are going to be wondering where to find Carbon Earth Company, we're going to be at booth 7212. 7212 in between Walbro LLC and Case Construction. Across the street there from Isuzu Trucks of America and Chevrolet Commercial Vehicles. Going to be over by the Ego Power Plus guys. You know what I'm saying? Man, ready. Ready is an understatement if I say so myself. This is definitely my favorite time of the year. For those of you that have never been to the GIE, highly recommend you go, because boy, oh boy, is it a good time. There's no doubt about it. How's everybody doing today? It's Sunday. We all know what that means. That means it's Sunday. I think I did all right with a little music intro there. Under the 30 acre roof, the 7212, that's what I'm talking about. So, for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, this is the weekly lawn and garden show. A little bit about how this goes. This is an open format, meaning you ask questions, I provide answers. A little bit about me. I have a background in turf grass management. Started in golf, made my way into lawn care, and could never leave. I fell in love with it, baby. I tell you why. Because you never know what you're going to get. When you do not control the cultural practices, it's like a constant 90-mile-an-hour fastball coming at you, with an occasional change up and some sliders and maybe a curveball from time to time too. I'm not a baseball player though, so I tell you what, trying to swing and rip at those ain't easy. Nor is residential lawn care. But you know what? I made a career out of it, and I'm glad I'm here. So I have no idea where I got off on that track. So like I said, today is the weekly lawn and garden show. I appreciate you tuning in. Open format. You ask questions, I provide answers. That is the purpose of the chat. The chat, communicate with others, have a good time, be nice to one another, and go ahead and start lining up those questions. For those of you that are also tuning in for the first time, we're going to move into the part of the show that I call the roll call. Oh, boy. Let's see. Let's scroll up to the top of the chat here. Ooh. One of my favorite attorneys came in first. Mr. Lambert himself. That's what I'm talking about. Ridge Runner, when are you going to come in first? That's my other favorite attorney. Ridge Runner, look at Lambert coming in here first. Lushy coming in with a hot second. Brett Schmidt was number 3. Man, Lambert, this is not the best thing that happened this weekend. There's a lot of good things that happened this weekend, I promise. I'm pretty low on the totem pole. Ballistic is in the house. My man over there in Oregon with his Ford Raptoring around with like lightning. I don't know where I'm going with that. American Troy, how are you, good sir? Richard Nettles, Jason Miller, what's up, YouTube? Brandon Reinschmeit. The hardest pronounced last name of anybody I've come across. How are you, sir? Kenny Cooper's in the house. For those of you that want to check out a guy who's been a regular in the chat here, go check out Kenny Cooper's YouTube channel. He's got some good stuff going on over there. He's got one of the thickest accents I've ever heard from anybody in the southern Wisconsin area. It's funny, Kenny, this is not to slight you, but I have another friend up in that area, Chris Voix. And Chris Voix, I'll never forget the first time I talked to him on the phone. I heard his accent, and I almost had to hang up and call him again to start over, because in a million years, I never would have guessed that's what he sounded like. That's just me being a redneck over here, if you know what I'm saying. Kenny Cooper, I'm sorry, man. Robbie Nugent said, I hope he talks about X soil which is actually what's going to be the branded product. And those of you that are looking for more information on it, I'm not going to be able to give you a firm date on the release, but I can tell you a little bit about how that product came to be. We made it, and we made it for us to be able to put it under testing, and we made it a long time ago because we've been testing it for quite a while. And what we had left over, we kind of sent out here and there to let some other people test it, try it, smell it, taste it, touch it, make sure it's spread through a spreader just fine. And we know what kind of data we got. We actually made 2 variations of it. And what is going to be the final variation is not going to be Zoil. Zoil, though, I like the name Zoil. And when it was Zoil, that was actually how I pronounced it. So shout out to the Lawn Tools for pronouncing it like me. But it's actually going to be branded X-Soil when it makes its way out. But there's going to be more coming about that. Now, I'll probably dig into that a little later in the year. We got some big surprises coming in the later part of the year. And I'm super excited about it. And I know all of our partners are excited about it as well. Jason Miller's in the house. I think I already said that. Cars YouTube OSU Turf Man is in the house. Josh Miller, very similar to Jason Miller, but the first names do differ. Richard Nettles is here. DowAgro is here. Charlie Natera's here. Email Low. Look at Email Low. Dogtooth. Steve said Alan Hain is super short. Actually, no, he's not. I think he's pretty close to average. You have to remember when, especially if you're talking about a photograph where I'm standing with Alan, I'm 6'4", and I think Alan's like 5'8". So it looks a little different, you know. It just does. That's all I'm saying. We got Kurt Cherry in the house. He's going to be representing us all the way from St. Louis. For those of you that are looking for a St. Louis distributor, guess what? This is going to be a big GIE release that I'm going to do right now for just the chat. For just the chat. This is going to be a startup, and he is a distributor for the professional markets in St. Louis. So for those of you that have lawn care businesses down there in St. Louis and want an opportunity to take our products but don't have the ability to deal with shipping and all that crap that entails from buying direct from us, we get it. It's a struggle. I get it. Trust me, that's why we're working on these distributors hard. Y'all go check out everything that's going on over there at Superior Grain. What's up, Kurt Cherry? Glad you're here. Andy Harrison he said, man, give me some more Zoil, he said. BB Camillo, what are you doing, sir? Matt Martinez, I like that name, sir. Hey, if I had just a little bit more Latino in me, I would have been Matt Martinez. I hope you realize that. Barry Cavanaugh, Chris Elms, Grace Ortiz, Popo and Son Lawn Care. Matt Dave, look at all these Zoils in here. Whoa. Caesar Omar, Dan Espinosa, New Perspective Lawn Care. Oh, interesting. GIE bound. I don't know if you can see that, sir. I don't know if you can see that. I got it flipped around backwards because it's a green hat, and the green screen will make it do some silly things. But just want to show some love out there to New Perspective Lawn Care. NA1DU, any new hints? Any hints on the new products that some of the YouTubers are testing? Well, let me give you a little insight on that NA1DU is that we didn't have a whole lot that was left over. And so pretty much all we had, we just sent to the Lawn Tools because I love his songs. I absolutely love his songs and his singing. He's got a great voice. And he's a really interesting guy. He's super neat, and he's got a beautiful family. And so anyway, we started there. But that's not to say we might have something a little cooking in the background, if you know what I mean. All right. I think I'm done. I think I'm done messing around over here on the roll call portion of the show. So we're going to move into the segment where we have gone to the open format. So for those of you that have questions, feel free to ask the questions in the chat now. Line them up. If I do not get to your question at first, feel free to ask again. Understand that I take these in order that I get them. I may skip you. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there right now. Dub horns, I may skip you, and if I do, it is an accident. I will get to it, so, if I skip you, ask again. I'm human. I'm fallible. I make mistakes. Then the last thing is that I may be a turf grass professional, but I too make mistakes, and sometimes I'll offer bad advice where I'll be thinking in my brain that you have warm season grass, and I'll recommend warm season herbicides, and you may have cool season grass. So always double check everything that I say. All right, looks like we are going to start here with London 4D has the fourth dimension of time. He says, my baby grass is growing. Thanks for your help. What is the shelf life of Carbon X, X-Green, and X-Start? As long as you keep it in an airtight container, it should be indefinite. Because we have a moisture-absorbing agent in the Carbon X. We do not have a whole lot of hygroscopic materials in X-Green or X-Start. So as long as you keep it sealed, you should be good to go. You may even take a 5-gallon bucket with a nice rubber lip on it and store it there. Gabriel Johnson says, Matt, turf-type tall fescue in New Jersey. I got swarms of bugs over the grass. Fungus gnats? Don't worry. Or the Lawn Forum suggested nematodes, which looks expensive for bugs, or neem oil. Gabriel Jordan, I'm not exactly sure what I'm asking there, but if you say you got swarms of bugs over the grass, it could be a couple of things. It could be, I don't know what fungus gnats are. But it could be something like it could be like sod webworms. If you're in New Jersey, I'd say you're probably getting a little cooler right now. So honestly, I don't know what it is. If you're looking for something simple to do, probably the most simple thing to do is to make an application of something like bifenthrin or permethrin if you're exceptionally worried about it. But personally, I would not worry about it, nor would I do anything until I saw any damage to the turf, if I could not make an accurate identification. Because if you can't accurately identify it, then there's not really any reason to spray something and kill something that's not causing any damage, right? At that point, you're just going after the ecosystem, and we got to protect it. Emal Lowe says, question about X-Start. Does applying humic kill burn phos? If so, how long after applying X-Start should I spray humic? Emal, it's not that it kills or burns phosphorus. It's just temporarily it can make phosphorus unavailable. And it's not a permanent thing, but one of the studies that I found was that it was about, I don't believe they gave a very specific date, but it was for a short period of time, the phosphorus was rendered unavailable. So that is why I typically do not recommend it, because when you're applying a starter fertilizer, one, I'm assuming you're phosphorus deficient, and two, that you want that phosphorus to be utilized. You want it soluble. You want it available, right? And so you've got the end down portion with it, and then you can also take up the phosphorus with it. So, yeah, that's the only reason I don't recommend doing it. Other than that, yeah, you'll be good to go. You can follow up with it, assuming, I don't know what results you expect to get out of humic acid, but whatever you expect to get, then, yeah, you can go ahead and make that application. Andrew Stralvo says, what's up out of Oklahoma? Hey, man, I appreciate it, Mr. Stralvo. David Hensel, man, Andrew, we had a good chat, didn't we? We had a chat on Thursday, was it? Or was it Friday we talked? I believe it was one of those 2 days. David Hensel says, Matt, you have said that ammoniacal nitrogen is your favorite, but it acidifies the soil. My soil soil pH is 5.5. What type of nitrogen can I use that won't counteract my lime treatments and lower my pH? David, there is none, except maybe calcium nitrate would be the only thing you could use. It's going to be a little difficult to come across. So usually what is recommended is that you apply enough lime to bring your pH to neutral, and then you'll be able to use ammoniacal nitrogen. So it's one of those things. If you're using nitrogen, you're basically acidifying the soil, so lime should be part of your program. And 5.5, that doesn't necessarily scare me, but I would go ahead, if I get a 5.5, I'd go ahead and make an application in the fall and in the winter time, something like 50 pounds per thousand, maybe 75 pounds per thousand, something like that. And I wouldn't worry about it probably for another year or two. I would check next year, see where I'm at, and then year number 2, check again. And then if I need to apply it, I need to apply it. If I'm at a 5.8, I'm probably going to let it go again that year too. I'm not afraid of a 5.5 pH. Just saying. What's going on, Brian Jones? We got A's Lawn and Landscaping in here. Turf Nerd! Woo! Turf Nerd and I got to go hang out up in Dayton, Ohio the other day. We had a good time up there, didn't we, David? I'm gonna get you some applause on that one. According to the Lawn Tools, it's Zoil. Yeah, I kind of like that name. I like the name Zoil. The Lawn Guardian, what's up, Ben? How are you? For those of you that are wondering, we are going to be hosting a big event at the GIE. So Ben, the Lawn Guardian, kind of organized this. We're going to be hosting a meet and greet with Ben Sims, Lawn Tips, all the way from the Outback, Australia. So he's going to bring his southpaw ass on up to booth 7212 Thursday at 2 p.m. We're going to be having all kinds of prizes, mega giveaway. In fact, I think there may be a prize pack in there that will include a giveaway. It's going to be a big giveaway. It's going to be like a fishing trip. And it's not just going to be any fishing trip. It's going to be a fishing trip with myself and Mr. Hain. Ooh. Maybe not as cool as it sounds, but for whoever wins, understand, we're going to have a good time with it. I promise. There's nothing like being out on the boat. We'll have a good time. B-Town's Most Wanted says, how much percent-wise would Aquatrol, Dispatch, Revolution, etc. reduce watering in 85 to 90 degree temperatures? Also, how much uniformity increase in the soil could one expect if sprinkler coverage isn't 100% exact? You are asking a very, very specific answer. Assuming you can actually keep your soil moisture, you can keep your soil moist at all, you're going to reduce watering by, I'm not sure you're actually going to reduce watering. Maybe you can. I think you would just extend the frequency that you need to water. So you may be able to cut it. Say you water 2 days a week. You could probably cut it to 1 day a week. But on that 1 day a week, you would probably still need to increase it. You could just go a longer time in between waterings, assuming you do not let the soil dry out. That is going to be the quickest way to kill those active ingredients, is let the soil dry out. So do not let the soil dry out, and you should be good to go. All right. And as far as like how much uniformity increase in the soil could you expect? Not much. If your sprinkler coverage isn't 100%, then it's not going to improve that. It may improve. You have to think, remember, it's a surfactant, right? So it's going to cut the surface tension of water. So if you cut the surface tension of water, how much lateral spread are you going to get out of it if you don't have 100% coverage from your irrigation system? It's not going to be anything breathtaking. You may not even be able to notice you're doing it. So it may not warrant investing the money in it. If you're dealing with 100,000th of an inch bent grass that is facing LDS and wilt during the heat of the day, it might behoove you then. Or if you're using some sort of insecticide, you need to get down deep. You can use that as a kicker to try and aid in the movement of it down. Just kind of brainstorm in there. Ryan H. wants to know best way to get rid of Virginia buttonweed cool season grass. That's pretty easy. Fluroxapyr combined with triclopyr combined with 2,4-D is probably about as good as you can get. If you're 2,4-D sensitive, you can replace the 2,4-D with MCPA. These products on the market are going to be like Momentum FX2. Another one is going to be Helena's Battleship 3. Those would contain the active ingredients, and those would do a very good job. Greg Ferguson says, whoa, we skipped way down. Let me come on up. Greg Ferguson said, I aerated last Tuesday 3 times and overseeded. Haven't seen any germination yet in mid-Tennessee. Same seed as last year, sprouted in 5 days. Did my prodiamine from June mess up my overseed? Probably not, Greg Ferguson. Probably what you're running into is the fact of how dry the soil is right now. It's so dry that it's not going to respond to irrigation water like you're used to. And just a single rain, like I know we got rain the other day, and it was, what, half an inch maybe? You're in Middle Tennessee, so I think you got half an inch. We got like a quarter inch. So chances are it's not going to be enough water for it to come up. If it was an issue with prodiamine, you would still see it come up and then it would die pretty quickly because barricade or prodiamine is not going to inhibit germination. It's going to inhibit the rooting. So you'll see it begin to bust out, and then the roots will nub off and the plant will fail. Cars YouTube says, if certain parts of a yard on a renovation is having trouble, I saw you mention using a soil penetrant. What would be good to use for this? Used X-Start. Don't want to use anything that affects FOSS. So when I was doing that, I was using a soil penetrant. I actually was running into a situation that we're in now where it's just an unbelievably dry time frame. And I was looking for anything that would give me a competitive advantage for my customers to be able to keep up with watering. Is it worth it? It's going to vary case by case scenario. It depends on how much effort you want to put into it. Is it going to be the difference maker for you? It may not. It's going to be really hard to say. The good use for it is if you're in a record drought and you still need to try and get seed up. There we go. B-Town's Most Wanted says, also, do you prefer one type of surfactant over another? Block copolymer, alkylpolys, etc. No, I have no preference. They all tend to perform about the same. There are some chemistries that are coming out that are performing exceptionally well. We've been working with this company out of Florida that has a proprietary surfactant that has just been absolutely stellar. But I'm not really at liberty to talk about a whole bunch of that right now. Andy Harrison says, I'll sing to you for a bag of Zoil. Look at that. Look, man, I'll tell you right now, I've got more opportunities to test material than anybody in America. I could tell you that right now. Matthew Durivage says, Matt, are you looking to get a distributor in the Northeast? Absolutely. 100%. I would love to cover every territory in the United States. So if you know someone who deals in professional sales, then yes, by all means, we are interested. Same for Central Indiana, Rob Wright. Absolutely. Might as well add a turntable and start scratching. Ryan Jones says, can pre-M be applied to wet grass? Prodiamine plus simazine liquid app. Hoping to do tomorrow and rain tonight. Yes, you can do that. It's not going to offer too much of an inference. Matt Martinez says, if I have a subsurface drip on part of my lawn, do I need to foliar water for newly developed perennial rye on Bermuda overseed? Chances are, it depends on, I've never seen a subsurface system, so it's going to be really hard for me to comment. I know these are super popular, and like Dallas right now is doing a lot of them. I don't know how wet it actually gets the soil surface, because you remember, you have to keep, in order to get the seed to bust out of the seed coat, you have to keep the actual seed wet. Not just necessarily the soil wet, but the actual seed has to remain moist. So what I would ask, Matt, is does your subsurface watering system allow you to keep the surface of the soil moist and moist enough to actually, if you touched it with your finger, could you feel it on your hand? If so, then chances are you'd be fine. It'd get your perennial ryegrass on up there. Jerry Bob Hayes says, if you get too heavy-handed with pre-emergent in the fall, will it prevent St. Augustine stolons from rooting themselves to the soil the following spring? It is 100% possible, Jerry Bob Hayes. And a lot of times what you'll end up having happen is that you'll cross your threshold of your pre-emergent, and it's very bizarre that in the sense you would think, okay, you apply more and more and more, you get less and less and less weeds. Well, after a certain threshold, that's not the case. And what happens is you get turf decline. And as you get turf decline, you'll tend to get more of the weeds that can tolerate that pre-emergent. So just a little tidbit there that it can actually increase your weed pressure. Ooh. Gary Evans says, what temperature range should I wait for to indicate it is time for my winterization in application? Don't want to drive late season growth, but also don't want to wait too late. Gary Evans, once you're down and you look in the forecast and you're like, man, my grass is just barely even growing anymore, go ahead, make your last application, call it good. If you're still growing an inch a week, then I would probably hang on to that last one until it gets a little more slowed down. So wait for it to really start to slow down, make your final N application, and call it good. David Deaton says, Matt, when fighting an active brown patch outbreak with propiconazole, should it be watered in? Any difference when doing preventative treatments, turf titol fescue in transition zone? Yes, it should, but it doesn't need to be done immediately. Typically, you want to give it a few hours. I think 4 hours is the label recommendation, and then water it in, because there is some systemic activity, but a lot of that is going to have to be foliarly absorbed. And it would work the same way in doing preventative treatments. David, if you have good luck with propiconazole, kudos to you. It's not often. It's just not working like it used to. DowAgro says, ooh, Sunnyland, 16.5% iron 3 weeks ago. Wow. Obsessed with lawn and odds with GR. Is there a reliable pH tester that doesn't break the bank? Bought a digital from Big Box Store, $15, complete garbage. Okay. All of your soil pH testers are going to be complete garbage. Going to be complete garbage. And the reason why is you can't get an accurate reading from you're relying on electrical conductivity in order to make that happen. So you have to have the perfect amount of soil moisture and really a certain type of soil in order for it to work. So if you see a pH tester that is not in glass tubes, then it's a hoax. It's as good as a hoax. How about that? It's about as reliable as a bad joke. NA1DU, what will X soil be priced at? I'm going to need 150 pounds this spring. Costs are a killer. Need a wholesaler, an MD. I have no idea. I cannot answer that for you. What's up, Casey Turner? Tall fescue junkie in the yos. What is going on in the super chats? Kenny Cooper, y'all stop that. Y'all quit over there. We don't need to go down that road. Long Guardian says, if y'all are going to be at the GIE, you need to go to the Carbon Earth booth 7212 on Thursday, October 17th at 2 p.m. for a fun time and a great giveaway. Coming to America tour. Yeah. All right, let's see what's going on over here. Have you tested RHHP peptide with mycorrhiza? No, we have not tested RHHP peptides with mycorrhizae specifically, but we have done testing of each product independently. And I can tell you, at least from that, you can safely combine the two because chances are the mycorrhizae would work exceptionally well alongside the root hair promoting peptides. So that would be the RHPP. Oh, J Pink, I don't need no GIE beer. I'm not going to be drinking much beers at the GIE. I've got a lot to do, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have for beer drinking. But yes, if you're asking, they will play together well in the tank. We have not combined them because there's not really a real need because mycorrhizae, data shows, is really only effective. I'm trying to stay off sugar, J-Ping. How about that? How about that? No root beer either. Oh, well, where was I? I got totally distracted here. My goodness. Okay, root hair promoting pet. Oh, okay, so you would use mycorrhizae, and the data shows mycorrhizae is only really effective at plant establishment. Outside of plant establishment, it's not really effective anymore because the plant has enough root surface area to be able to come in contact with naturally occurring mycorrhizae in the soil. So when you would use your root hair promoting peptides would be during the active growing season. And of course, you could use it during establishment too, and then at that time you could combine it. But as far as like an overall product line, you wouldn't really do it that way because mycorrhizae is going to be a giant waste of money outside of that. Ballistic said GIE shots. I don't know about that. Maybe, just maybe. Ballistic, are you going to be the GIE? I hope so. Man, that'd be a good time, wouldn't it? I don't know why I keep doing the sound effects. I'm sorry. Mario B says, I'm going to use Roundup on Poa trivialis in the spring. What is your method of seeding after it's dead? Okay, so I'm going to give you how a professional applicator would handle it. And this is just one opinion from one professional applicator, what I would do. I would spray it and seed it at the same time and not really do anything. I just broadcast it over the top of the area I just sprayed with Roundup at the same time. So I'd spray it, go put my backpack up, get my spreader, come out, spread it over the areas I just sprayed with glyphosate, and I'd walk away. And then after 24 hours, start doing the watering thing and all that, because glyphosate is going to be absorbed through green tissue. As long as you do not have any green tissue, a seed is not green tissue, therefore it is seed safe. New Perspective Lawn Care says, pendimethalin has the potential to sterilize a lawn. What type of rate would do such a thing? Pendimethalin does, prodiamine does, dimension does, dithiopyr does, methylsulfuron methyl does. Any of your pre-emergents do. What is that threshold? I don't know. Is it 2x the rate? Is it 1.1x the maximum rate? I don't know what that is, but absolutely, root pruning herbicides by all means can do one hell of a job of keeping the soil from growing things. Just saying. Cars YouTube said, is Pythium an issue when temperatures are in the 70s and nights are in the high 50s? If so, heard a phosphite can be used. If so, what brand is good and is surfactant needed and which kind is recommended? If you're using phosphite, no, you do not need a surfactant. We'll end that there. Because phosphite is a combination, is a reaction of phosphorus acid and potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide is going to be pretty slick, so you do not need to use a surfactant. As far as a brand, Turf Fuel is a good one. I know they put out a lot of products that I trust. HydraSmart is another brand. I really like what they do. So, yeah, those would probably be the two I recommend. Do you see it in 70s and 50s? Not usually. Does it happen? In the rarest of occasions, yes, it does. It's just not common. Where are we? Okay. Well, those aren't questions. Okay, anyone, which would you prefer? Aquatrol Dispatch sprayable or Hydrotane for non-irrigated lawn? Hydrotane? Just because I probably have the most experience with that active ingredient. Outside of that, it was, like super slick stuff like Duplex or something. So yeah, Hydrotane I think is great. Chris Gibson says, seed wet or seed moist? Moist. Shane Brady, the hardest working man in lawn care, beer drinking Brady today he is. That was really loud. Sorry about that. From Nebraska, do not usually kill off fescue and seed bluegrass. Have done 2 this year. Super slow to come in. Plenty of rain and watering. Got into 30s last week. High 70. Yeah, with those cooler nighttime temperatures, that's really going to slow things down. A's Lawn and Landscaping, I have a board dedicated to doing nothing but making these noises. I went and bought a radio setup because I'm obsessed with radio. From the question above, wow, Cars YouTube is dominating tonight in terms of questions asked. From the question above, water the area having issues with rooting. Water doesn't seem to be getting into the ground very well. Should I use a soil penetrant? And if so, what one should I use? Yeah, use Hydrotane. That's fine. I think you're way overcomplicating this, Cars YouTube. If you see you're not getting good penetration from your water, that's a good time. Go ahead, use a surfactant. Which one do you use? Whatever is easiest for you to acquire. Is one really going to be all that much better than the other? No, not at least that I've seen. So take your pick, have at it, and have fun with it. You'll be good to go. Plummy Stewart says, have you ever thought about creating a warm season program to sell? No, absolutely not. I will never, ever, ever, ever do that because that's not my thing. I don't teach people how to do specifics. I teach people to think about a very, very, very large set of ideas and use that large set of ideas to make the best possible decision that you can regarding whatever it is you're deciding to do, whether it be an herbicide application or a fungicide application or a fertilizer application. The best way to go about that is to have all the information. So no, I will not sell that. What I will do is you can go get. I worked with Alan on his, so I know that's got great information in it. So I would point you to Alan's. Go check out his ebook series on warm season turf. I think it's fantastic, and I will. Yeah, I would. Blah, 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 blah. If there's anything I'm going to be able to add to that, it's going to be more specifics relating to your situation. So I don't know if, for a lot of people that have asked me questions on kind of like a one-on-one format, the first thing I get really, really over the top with the questions because there's way more information that is needed to make an accurate determination. A guide is a good thing to follow, and that's great. That's what Alan provides. But when you need to hammer out some super, super specific stuff, Alan can't fit all of that into one book. At some point, you've got to use your brain. And so I want to make sure you're asking the right questions to make sure you're using your brain. RBL Jackson says, what's up? What's up? What's up, dude? How are you? Working on the last round of the year with my skid. Any tips for hose management when doing yards? Quickest way to maneuver and deal with hose and manual reel. I always, whenever I walked into a backyard, I looked where I was going to wrap my hose around to use as a guide, right? I did not stand. The first thing I did was I pulled the hose all the way to the far corner of the backyard. I mean, just as far as I could possibly get. I'd go first off. If there's a basketball goal, I'd go ahead and wrap it around the outside of that and then use it to pull over to the far corner of the yard. So that way I'm not pulling across patio furniture on the back porch or any of that crap. Use the goalpost, wrap, stay to the outside of it and then pull to the far corner. I tried to do that with everything. So that way when I come out of the backyard and there's a goalpost by the driveway, this time I go on the side closest to the street. So that way it pulls the hose in as much of a straight line as possible back around it. So that way, I can walk the rest of the yard and it's not tangled up in anything. Hose management will make or break you, especially with a manual reel. That's brutal, sir. But just make sure you always are aware of which direction your hose is wrapped. And that way, when you take your next pass, you counteract it to make sure it never gets hung on anything. I think that's going to be it. David Taylor says, hey, Matt, love the new podcast. For those of you that are wondering, if you didn't know, there certainly is a new podcast. And you may be asking yourself, what new podcast are you talking about? I'm like, oh, you don't know the new podcast? There's a new podcast going out. What new podcast? New podcast is the Grass Factor series, and I'm doing a series right now called One Dream. And this is about what it was like to start up our fertilizer manufacturing business. And so I kind of give you the behind-the-scenes and nitty-gritty, super detailed stuff that nobody really in the public knows the details of. And I kind of share it all in that podcast. So it's a lot of good information in there. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun for me to reminisce on all of that and remind myself where I came from versus where we are. B-Ruck says, because biochar lasts a very long time in the soil, what, if any, are the long-term effects of buildup of biochar in the soil? Okay, B-Ruck, there's a kind of a misnomer there. Okay, first, biochar contains a fair amount of high soil organic carbon right there. So, that's going to be available for all kinds of different functions in the soil. So as you accumulate and you accumulate and you accumulate carbon gradually over time, typically everything else is going to build in unison with it, right? So microbial activity, beneficial bacteria, beneficial fungi, there's a whole soil ecosystem that will develop alongside with it. And then once you get to a certain point, then it's actually just going to start running deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper because you would just be applying more. So if you kind of look at like what happened to the Terra Preta, if you've never done that, kind of Google the Terra Preta and you can see, what long-term heavy rates. I mean, we're talking about like tons and tons of, biochar going down in a year after year after year, tons and tons and tons of it. Obviously, that's not what we're doing, so we would never see that. Now, the short-term benefits of biochar is like an immediate spike in beneficial, well, not necessarily just beneficial, but fungi and bacteria in general will spike after an application. And that is only going to last for about a year. And then after a year, that falls off and comes back to normal. So while the benefits of having soil organic carbon is high, right? There's lots of things that provide soil organic carbon. Your biosolids, after they get mineralized by the doo-doo-eating microbes in the ground, they're going to leave behind soil organic carbon, and then they will also deposit nitrogen and phosphorus. Not going to deposit any potassium, but some iron, some other micronutrients too. So it would be basically the same thing. It's just that you can get more of it in a smaller amount because you have a higher concentrated material that has a unique structure that allows it to bond to things really well. Thiago says, how long should I wait to apply prodiamine to new sod? Wait as long as you possibly can. So let's see. If you apply it in the fall, we'll call right now the fall, I would not apply it until spring. If you put down new sod in the spring, I would probably apply it in the summer. I would make sure, okay, as a general rule of thumb, if you can pull up any of the 4 quarters of your piece of sod, 4 corners, right? If you can pull up any of your 4 corners, it's too early to apply. If you cannot, then you're more than likely okay. That's not 100% of the time, but that is kind of a general rule of thumb. We jumped down there. Okay, here we go. Then there is calibrating the pH meter and keeping it in the right buffer solution. Right, yes. And any of the pH meters you find off of Amazon or whoever's hawking a pH meter, Solucal, or somebody's selling a pH meter, you're not going to see them saying anything about keeping it in a buffer solution. So that tells you right there, it's out, it's done, it's garbage. Oh, you're welcome, good sir. Thank you. Obsessed with lawn and odds with GR. What's your name, Lawn and Odds? Obsessed with lawn and odds with GR. I got to know your name, buddy. Let's see here. Jason Miller says, love the cheesy soundtracks. Keep them up. London 4D says, when are you going to make an X beer? I don't know about all that. I don't know about the X beer. Tequila. Sugar-free root beer. How about that? Casey Turner says, looking forward to the GIE this year. Going to pick up my X-Start tomorrow morning. It was here Friday. Ooh. I saw on the lawn forum that you were experimenting with melatonin on your lawn. How did that turn out? Okay, I can tell you exactly how that turned out, Lucky Boy Sunday. It didn't. It never did anything. And I applied it, and here's kind of my caveat there, is that when I was applying it at a time when the grass was not under stress, right? And then when I did hit a stress period, I no longer had time to do it. But I can say when I made the application, it's not under stress. It didn't do anything. Now, the data shows that it performs when the plant is facing a significant amount of stress. David Taylor, what are you doing? When is Peptide X coming out? I tell you what, y'all keep asking about these peptides. I'm going to let you in on a secret right now. It's coming hot. It is coming hot. So for those of you that do not take the time to check out the Carbon Earth website, there is a little secret hanging around over there, maybe under the products tab. And that if you pay really close attention, really close, under the products tab, really close attention, I'm going to post a link right here. You might see something in that product line under the products tab that you may be looking for, David Taylor. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Anyone live streaming the GIE? Probably not. They kind of put the kibosh on the internet signal in there, so that way you're forced to buy internet from them. So anyway, Lucky Boy Sunday, it was not very effective. And truthfully, I think in order for it to be effective, it needs a better carrier, probably like a polymer, I would think a polymer, or maybe even like an organosilicone, in order to give it the highest probability, or maybe even something like fulvic acid that can move into a plant really easily. Anything that would move it into the plant faster, I think, would increase your efficacy, or at least allow me to see something. But in what I put out, absolutely nothing. Nothing. Let's see. Hey, Matt, 2 weeks in on my turf type tall fescue renovation in North Carolina X-Start, and I want to begin to assault within. How much in would you recommend this fall? Damon, it totally depends on what your temperatures are. If I'd said you're in North Carolina, you could safely go down with like probably 2 pounds in the fall. You could do it in 2 applications. You could do like one now, and then probably closer to Thanksgiving, you're still getting a little bit of growth out of it. Then make your second application of 1 pound of in there. Matt Martinez says, I've been real mowing Bermuda at 1 inch. Temps here in Dallas. Aha, you are in Dallas with your subsurface irrigation system. Applied last application of PGR a few days before the cold front. Bermuda is on a standstill. Any suggestions for wanting to cut rye at a 1/2 inch? Get your Bermuda down now before you're dealing with your rye, or you're going to have to wait for your rye to come up and establish really, really, really well before you take it down to a 1/2 inch. Because if it's really young and you try and take it down to a 1/2 inch, you're going to pull a lot of that out of the ground. Just be careful. I've seen it done. You can ask Reload Dad about that. I watched Reload Dad do it. Joseph Rotina says, hey, Matt, is Carbon X good for winter fertilizer? I have turf type tall fescue here in South Jersey. Absolutely. It's a great product for winter fertilizer. Terry Finch said, had a serious hairy bittercrest issue last winter. Ooh, when is the best time to apply dithiopyr to control it this winter? Now, Terry Finch. Now is a good time to get it down. Any chances to see X products in Home Depot, Lowe's, or Walmart in 2020? Absolutely not. Nope. Damon Williams says, hit return too soon. Turf type tall fescue ran in North Carolina. I get every spring summer disease. Do you recommend 4 pounds per year? And how much should I jam in the fall if I get every disease there is in spring summer? Okay, so NC State pioneered the research about all kinds of different rates of nitrogen and all different kinds of when to apply and when not to apply. And they all pretty much did the same thing. Whether you did high nitrogen or low nitrogen, whether you did it in the fall or whether you did it in the spring, every one of the fescues at North Carolina State got smoked by disease. Your disease pressure in the transition zone in North Carolina and Knoxville is just going to be too high. Just deal with it. You can try and trick it up. You can try and go organic, and you can try and do this. You can try and do that. But really, when it comes down to it, the disease pressure here is just too high. You're going to get it. Be ready. Cars YouTube says, one question above for Roundup poetry in spring. Most likely one has already used pre-emergent. Do we just use a hand weasel to break up the pre-emergent barrier so when you seed it will germinate and root? Yes. Or do not apply pre-emergent on that area. You tend to reseeding. Damon Williams says, more cowbell. I ain't got no cowbell, but I sure do got that dove horn. What's recommended rate on the X-Start? 125 pounds per acre, Casey Turner, unless you have a soil test that says you need more than that. Austin Snelling says, hey, Matt, turf type tall fescue in Oregon, 28 days post-germination, mowed twice, and just got its first app of Carbon X on Wednesday. Watering recommendations going forward, high 50s, mid 60s, highs and low 40s at night. I don't know as specifically because where you are in Oregon, you may be in an area that gets a lot of rain. You may be in an area in Oregon that gets no rain. So it's going to be hard for me to say. But if you've got your second cut in, I'd say you could safely drop it to once, maybe twice per week, but probably just once a week. And for, of course, a longer period of time. Lawn Guardian says, Matt, what's your experience with a spreader sticker that contains acrylic acid polymer? This is a polymer gel that I have. I've never used something like this. If it is a polymer gel, I probably would not put it into a tank because it would gel up in the tank. I do not have any experience with acrylic acid polymer, so I cannot give you a good answer on that. Wayne Esser says, Spectrum Technologies Field Scout Direct Soil EC meter might be good for the person that is wanting to test without the hassle. I tell you what, Wayne, I am going to throw this into the YouTube real quick. I mean, into the Google, and see what we look at. Okay. Now, this may be a little more accurate. Okay, you got your soil test solution. How do you calibrate this? I guess would be my question. 1 point calibration. Can we calibrate it at 1 point in standard calibration solution? Okay, it's got a calibration solution. Yeah, that looks good. And now, mind you, understand that's a $540 pH meter. That's a Hanna. Hanna's a good brand. They've been around for a long time. Hanna Instruments. So that is probably getting close to something that I would trust. Getting there. I would have to do a little bit more digging in that than I'm going to be able to do on this live stream before I can give you an appropriate answer on that. Is it worth paying for lawn applications from a company without having irrigation in South Central Indiana? Yeah, I mean, listen, I have my front yard is not irrigated, and by all means, it still looks awesome 98% of the time. We hit a record drought this year, and so it went dormant, but it's still clean, and it still looks better than all of my neighbors that have fields full of Dallas grass. It looks awesome. So is it worth it? Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with it at all whatsoever. Irrigation is not a requirement to have a nice lawn. I have none of my lawn irrigated, and you can see in the back here, I did. In fact, I grew all of that in from about 5,000 square feet of Bermuda grass with no irrigation whatsoever. Just saying. Whoa, I jumped down to the bottom. What's up, Matt? CX is kicking butt in upstate New York right now. 3 pounds per 1,000. Carbonex, and we got all kinds of stuff. Sissy grass exploded. Should I be worried? No, sir. You run with it. So the melatonin made it fall asleep. Haha. Anytime you say peptide, we need a sound. Peptides deserves its own sound. I don't know. Maybe I'll do this. Have that. Super TA329 says, just finished second mow since planting Kentucky bluegrass here in South Jersey. When do I slow down on the watering? Starting to get temps in 40s at night. This is the exact same question I think I answered earlier, but it wasn't from you, Super TA. If you got your second mow in, I would drop it significantly. Stress your grass, and I mean that. Stress it. There's nothing wrong with it. Stress it. Let it needle up. Let it get a little angry. It's good for it. It is good for it. The crap technology, Paul. The crap technology is coming up. Trent Burns, we will probably not do a 10-10-10, but we will do something pretty similar to that. I can't guarantee it will be a 10-10-10. But as far as having a 1-to-1-to-1 NPK ratio, yes, absolutely. And so people may wonder, how do we come up with the variances that we do? And we come up with that because no one soil test is the same, right? So whenever you decide to get into lawn care, and this doesn't matter if you are a home lawn professional or you're a real lawn care professional, or this is even just reminders for the guys who do pro turf for a living. Where do you start? You have to get a baseline of what your soil has in it, so that way you can gauge what you need to apply, where you need to spend your dollars in fertilizer. Because if you have a soil that has 300 parts per million of potassium, there's no reason to buy a fertilizer that is going to have a significant amount of potassium in it. There's no reason. At that point, maybe all you need is nitrogen. Or you look at your your soil test, you got 300 parts per million of potassium, you got 50 parts per million of phosphorus. You're good there. You're good on your nitrogen, but you're bottomed out. You have no cal and magnesium in your soil whatsoever. So what are you going to do? You're going to apply dolomitic lime, and then you can just fertilize with just straight up nitrogen. So you would need nitrogen and dolomitic lime, and you could have a fantastic lawn, and that's all the money you had to spend on it. So that is kind of the goal here, is to be able to provide you a bunch of materials to be able to make your own educated decisions. I'm not going to tell anybody how and when to apply what. I'm going to put out products that that someone can look at and say, okay, this has 6 units of nitrogen to 1 part of potassium. When do I need to apply this? I need to apply this when I am not suffering from severely deficient potassium soils, and I need to stimulate a fair amount of growth with nitrogen. Perfect. Bam. Okay, the 818. Okay, when am I going to apply this? All right, I've got 75 parts per million of potassium in the soil. My recommendation is 110. I know that for every 4 pounds of N I apply, I'm going to pull 2 out of the soil, because nitrogen's going to draw that up out of the ground as you apply it, right? So, you know, I don't want to dip too low, so I'm going to go ahead and apply a 1-to-1 NK, something like the 818. Or I'm moving into the peak of summer where I don't need a lot of P, but I want to make sure I have ample K there as well, so that way I'm not going into that season with deficient K. So I'm going to apply a 1/4 pound N and a 1/4 pound of K from the 818. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Are Alan and Pete going to have Stress X for you to buy? I don't know. So there's going to be a lot of changes going into next year. I'm not going to talk a lot about it right now, but there will be changes going into next year. We'll get into that later. Dennis Page says, there seems to be a bit of confusion. Carbon Earth, Green County, please explain. Nothing really to explain. We're just 2 different companies. Who is Paul Outlaw? That's a good question. Who is Paul Outlaw? I don't know about Stress X. I see y'all asking there. I cannot answer that accurately right now. But that's just a little idea of what's coming in 2020, maybe the end of the year. And if you read that label really close, you're going to notice something on those labels that has never been featured on one of our labels before. It's a brand new active ingredient. Oh, super excited about it. Todd Garrison says, how long will a pre-emergent to break down? Will my spring pre-emergent hurt my fall overseed? Not necessarily. If you get it up and established in the fall, no problem. Not going to hurt your fall overseed, because you will have developed a deep enough root system where it can be beneath your layer of herbicide. So nothing really to worry about there. Paul the Hammer Outlaw. The hammer. Make an echo in here. Soil temps at, a drop down here. Chris Bull says soil temps at 2 inches in Athens, Georgia are between 70 to 78. Good time to put out my Spectacle G. Yes. Get it down. Chris Mini Wheat Elves. Terry Finch says, if roots on stolons are clubbed by preem, will they eventually tack down when the preem is gone? No, because the damage has been done to the root. So maybe, just maybe, the plant can grow out of it. That's a possibility, but the likelihood of it, not so much. Bluegrass Crazy says, hey, Matt, Eastern North Carolina seeded Kentucky Bluegrass September 15th. When should I begin my fungicide program here? If you seeded in September 15th, you probably don't need to worry about it until next year. Maybe May 15th next year, maybe May 30th. You're going to have to look at your weather patterns and make that determination yourself. I doubt you deal with snow there, so I really don't see any reason for you to begin a fungicide program until next year, heat of summer. All right, let's see here. Paul, I know, just mimicking a comment. Haha. Hey, Matt, sorry I'm late. Have you spoken about soil yet? Yes. I'd like to hear a little bit about it. Okay, let me go ahead and just talk a little bit about it right now. So soil is zoil, is a proprietary process of, it's not proprietary really. Okay, so we take biochar, and of course we put it through a composting process with poultry manure. The product in what is known as zoil has been through an extended period of composting to the point where there's really, really little NPK analysis left. It's just a lot of really rich carbon material that's then been granulated. And during our granulation process, we have a special piece of technology that allows us to infuse something. So we do not coat the outside of prills. That's not what we do. We actually, during the whole formation of the prill, we use enzymatically hydrolysis derived peptides to cause all of that to join and stick together. So no matter how you break apart the prill, no matter how you crush it, you're still getting everything. It doesn't matter if the surface of it falls off and it turns into dust. It doesn't matter because it's actually infused throughout the entirety of the prill. So the product would be used as like a once a year type thing, or if you're in the transition zone, you could do light applications a little more frequently through the heat of the summer to capture the benefits of those peptides and still have a little bit of soil building ability out of it too. Matt, we need an online calculator that would suggest Carbon X products depending on soil test input. That's not a bad idea. Trent Burns says, my last sand leveling project was awesome, but I may throw down another ½ inch next year. When is the best time to do that for Bermuda next year? When it is actively growing, Trent. So you would want to do that between May and July timeframe. Any time in there is going to be good to go. B-Town's Most Wanted says, Matt, do you use a brush mower or rotary high cut on your chest hair? Asking for a friend. I've never cut it ever my entire life. I have no answers for you. Chad, that is right. That's exactly what's in the X soil. Beneficial soil amendments for acidic soil outside of lime. Typically just lime. Acidic soils, for the most part, typically have a little bit of clay content, right? Make sure you have your potassium and good calcium, good magnesium levels. And once you do that, it's really going to open up a lot, because most of the time when I see super acidic soils, I'm dealing with like red clays and stuff. So get your pH right, and you're going to open up a whole world of micronutrients to your turf grass, and it'll do really well. Thinking about going real, how do you like it so far? I love it, Trent, and I highly recommend the John Deere 220E, especially for uneven surfaces. It does great. Charlie Natera says, what do you think about slit seeding perennial rye? You can definitely do it. If you're talking about slit seeding into Bermuda grass, you can do that too. That's just a lot of work that I'm not really a fan of. I'm all about working easier, not harder. All right, Matt, do you ever imagine farmers would ever utilize your products? No, probably not. Now, some high yield, high revenue croppers we actually work with. And there are some products that we make that is kind of top secret. We're not of liberty to discuss because we're under a non-disclosure agreement. But we do make some products for agriculture. What they are looking for in agriculture is they are looking for so everything that has to cost has to be able to provide a return on investment in their final yield. So until we have the ability to be able to manufacture big enough for big ag, right? Because one farm may need, 500, 800, 1,000 tons of fertilizer. Well, I mean, that may take us like 3 months to manufacture. That may take us like a month to manufacture. It may take us like 5 months to manufacture, depending on the components of the product. They're not. We can't plan for that. So there's just, under no circumstance could we take on big ag right now. So small ag, high yield crops, hemp, we all work with. And all of that is fine because our throughput can match what they are looking for. Because you have to remember, too, in order to feed agriculture, your margins have to be somewhere between 2 and 7% also. So there's a whole nother business aspect that goes into marketing to farmers. Because you are dealing in such a high tonnage rate, you have to have razor thin margins. It's just not, and let me tell you, it's probably 10 years of wait time in order to get involved in big ag. That's serious. 10 years is probably a good starting point. Kareem Gisman says, what if someone don't water in prodiamine? Will it not work at all? Or will there be little to no protection? Yeah, that's possible. So photodegradation of prodiamine is a real thing, meaning as longer it's exposed to the sunlight and not stored in the soil, the more it will degrade. Is it worth going after Nutsedge of Bermuda right now? Man, that's a 50-50 question. If you do, use a sulfonylurea like Monument or Certainty or halosulfuron. Or what is the other one? The amazosulfuron, which would be... I'm drawing a blank. Amazosulfuron with the imidazolone chain. What is the name of that herbicide? I cannot remember. That was the wrong one. I meant to hit that. Jim Bergen says, my lawn is finally so lush and green with the app of Carbonex. I'm in Florida with the FERT restrictions, so I grabbed a case of beer September 30th, and at 12:01 October 1st, I put it down and watered it. Jim Bergen, you, sir, are a man among men. You are the man. I should have named my YouTube channel Do It Easy with GR. That's what I'm talking about. I was hoping products would show up with Millennial Farmer. I would, he's one of my heroes. I would give anything to meet that guy. I am not kidding. I think we're the same age. We both got families. We both have careers. And we both fight to be kind of, I wouldn't say a wrecking ball, but to be vocal about our careers and the industries we work in. I just love that guy so much. I think he's freaking awesome. Just dub horns for Millennial Farmer. Dismiss. I would not use dismiss this time of year. Austin Snelling says, herbicide recommendations to get rid of geranium. I believe it is Cranesbill. It's actually very easy to get rid of. I would probably use something that contains 2,4-D. 2,4-D works exceptionally well on geranium. If you're looking for something with a little more hot sauce, so to speak, I would look for something that contains fluroxapyr. Escalade 2, I think, is great. So, you'll be good to go. Image this time of year, yeah, you can. I just, you're naming herbicides that tend to cause a lot of collateral damage. I just don't see the need to do it right now when Bermuda's in its carbohydrate production mode. So you don't want to interrupt photosynthesis as much as you can. And plus, Nutsedge is going to be doing the same thing. So you're going to get a lot of systemic movement from a sulfonylurea moving that herbicide to the root system. So now would be the best time to use a sulfonylurea instead of like an image or a dismiss. Christopher Pro said, hey, Matt, what can I tank mix together to get rid of Bermuda, Dowsgrass, and Creeping Charlie in a new bluegrass lawn? I seeded it on September the 8th. I would use a combination of Pylex, Fluazafop, and Fluroxapyr. If you're feeling real froggy, you could change the Fluroxapyr over to Triclopyr. Either or would work well. But I would do 3 tank mix applications of that, and you'll have to do a minimum of 3 of them. If you seeded it on September 8th, depending on where you are, it's probably getting really close to going dormant. Good luck getting it all out. I don't think you're going to be able to get it all out starting this late because you're going to need a minimum of 3 applications. Anyone to you says, Matt, I was watching your lime video. Can you please clarify how fast-acting lime works? For Solucal, it says it requires the same amount as regular lime in North Carolina State. Why is that? Okay, because Solucal is, there is a little bit of some marketing magic that goes on in there. So what they do, so in order for lime to be the most effective, you're going to get your fastest response from lime at your smallest particle size. So think like 325 mesh, something like that, to the point where you're getting down into measuring in like, real measurements of micron, right? ultra fine to fast and quickly react with the hydrogen ions in the soil. So when you're using something like Soy-Cal, what they do is they grind the lime, the calcitic lime, into an ultra fine material to about 325 mesh. And then when they granulate it, in order to get that nice hard shell to keep it all packed in there, they use a carboxylic acid. That's their PLCA, polycarboxylic acid technology, right? Which is basically, it's a humic substance that has a lot of solids in it, and it's an old granulation trick to get things to stick together. And so the whole reason of the cost is, one, the binder they use is relatively expensive, and two, it costs a lot of money to grind something that small. It's very energy intensive. So it works fast enough that you can apply a low rate and it's going to move really quickly. But in order to get the duration out of it, say you want to get a season out of it, you're going to have to apply at the same rates that you would any other regular calcitic lime. It's just going to be faster to get your buffer. But if you do not apply it at the correct rate, you're going to lose your buffer very fast. So there you go. It does require the same amount. It absolutely requires the same amount, no matter what kind of soil it is you're working on, whether it's NC or Tennessee or Georgia. It's going to require the same amount as traditional lime. It's just going to get there faster because of the fine grind. And the polycarboxylic acid is really nothing other than a way of holding the granule together until it hits water, and then it falls apart really quickly into powder. So it's similar to like the DG technology from Anderson's. You know how like that basically they just take fine powders, they granulate it with either calcium lignosulfonate or bentonite or one of these binders that kind of hold it together, and then they give it a real fancy name and then charge an astronomical amount of money in it, because the astronomical amount of money is in the processing, getting it to the prill size before granulating. That costs a lot of money. Great to see the cough is going. Hey, yeah, man, it's getting a lot better. Thank you. I appreciate that. The podcast is awesome. Good stuff. The story about Charlie was amazing. Can't wait for the next episode. Yeah, me neither. I can't wait to record the next episode. And I got to say, man, I'm glad you said that, because Charlie, man, he is something fierce. And if you are going to be at the GIE on Thursday, you can come meet Charlie, man. So for those of you that have heard about him in the podcast, and for those of you that are wondering what I'm talking about with the podcast, well, I got a wild hair up my ass, and I went ahead and I did a thing, and that thing is I went ahead and started recording a podcast about the formation of carbon earth and everything that entailed. So check it out there. Tune in. See what all is going on. It's actually kind of a good time. Did I miss any GIE info? Yes, 7212 is our booth. Thursday at 2 p.m. Come for the meet and greet and the hangout, and we're going to be playing a game of trivia with all kinds of giveaways, free fertilizer, a fishing trip to St. Petersburg. We'll do some fishing with me and Alan Hain, Lawn Care Nut. Have a good time down there. So, yeah, all kinds of fun stuff is coming up. Jeffrey Dillner says, I have 2 older crabapple trees that have apple scab. What do I spray on them at green tip? That's a good question. I don't know a whole lot about crab apples and apple scab, so I do not know. By the way, I am starting a brand named Green Tip. Good stuff. What are your thoughts about storing seed over winter? Will it keep, and how will it affect germination for next season? Year over year, you will get a percentage decrease in germination. Is it 5%, 10%? I can't remember what it is, but year over year, you do get a decrease. Austin Stelling says, been working on getting my pH up since the spring, but I have some moss starting to reappear. When can I safely apply some moss control after an overseed? Product you recommend? Okay, here's the thing. When you apply your moss control, look at what the active ingredient is. Chances are it's going to be like an iron sulfate, either iron sulfate heptahydrate, iron sulfate monohydrate, ferrous sulfate. And what you'll notice is that if you look at the SDS of that and you look at the label, the pH on that material is going to be like a 4.5. So you're going to be spraying moss out with something with an ultra low pH. Here's the thing. Just because you have moss appearing does not mean you have low pH soil. Moss is opportunistic. That means you have that means that you have an open area of soil where the moss can thrive. I've seen moss in pHs of 7.6. I've seen moss in pHs of 4.8. And everything in between. Moss is opportunistic, not necessarily a pinpointer of your soil pH. So just want to make sure that is clear. Christopher Pro says, should I just wait until the spring and try and get the 3 apps down then? It's not dormant quite yet, but I doubt I will get 3 down this spring. Yeah, I probably would. I may go ahead and get 1 down this spring, though, anyway. All right, everybody, we're going to be moving into the time of the show where I'm going to go ahead and call it. For those of you that are wondering how to get a hold of me, I'm going to be a little bit difficult to get a hold of right now. I'm not going to lie. But you can find me over on the Discord at thelawndiscord.com. Big thank you to Jay Pink, my man over there at That One Cupcake Place, for getting me set up. Getting me set up with a personal URL for those kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? You can shoot me an email at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Will I see it? Probably not. I'm 289 emails behind on that right now, so just a word of warning. If you email me on thegrassfactor@gmail.com, chances are I will not see it. You can find me on Instagram. For those of you that are looking for me on Instagram, you can find me at The Grass Factor. We have a good time over there. I don't do anything too crazy. Alan likes to have fun on Instagram. I kind of keep it easy. I gotta stay on easy street over there with all that noise. And you can find me at the Lawn Forum. I don't really comment a whole lot at the Lawn Forum, but I'm there. That's thelawnforum.com. You can tag me as The Grass Factor if you'd like me to see something. But those guys over there know what they're doing. They don't need my help for nothing. Those guys are bright. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. I sure do appreciate it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready for the GIE. We're about to walk in to a world of fun. All right, everybody, I appreciate it. Y'all have a great evening.